Clint Eastwood's journey began far from the glamour of Hollywood, rooted instead in perseverance shaped by difficult times. Born on May 31, 1930 in San Francisco, he grew up during the Great Depression, a period that forced his family to move frequently across California in search of stability. These early experiences taught Eastwood resilience, self-reliance, and discipline, qualities that later became central to both his personality and his screen presence. Before acting, he worked various manual jobs, gaining first-hand experience of everyday struggle. His entry into the U.S. Army during the Korean War further reinforced his quiet strength and independence. It was during this period that Eastwood first encountered the creative world, discovering an interest in performance. Though success would come later, these formative years laid the foundation for a career defined not by excess, but by control, restraint, and an unwavering commitment to hard-earned achievement. From television breakthrough to global stardom. Eastwood's rise began modestly with his role as Rowdy Yates on the television series Rawhide, where his presence quickly stood out despite limited dialogue. Audiences were drawn to his calm intensity and understated confidence. That exposure opened the door to a defining transformation when he traveled to Italy to star in Sergio Leone's Dollars trilogy. These films revolutionized the Western genre, replacing traditional heroism with moral ambiguity and visual grit. Eastwood's Man with No Name became an international symbol of cool restraint, forever changing how Western heroes were portrayed. The success of these films elevated him from television actor to global star. What made Eastwood compelling was not explosive emotion, but what he withheld. His stillness spoke volumes, and his ability to command attention without excess dialogue marked him as a singular talent whose influence would stretch far beyond the Western genre. Reinventing masculinity in the 1970s. The 1970s marked a new chapter as Eastwood transitioned into urban crime dramas with the Dirty Harry series. As Inspector Harry Callahan, he embodied a controversial form of justice shaped by frustration with crime and bureaucracy. The character resonated deeply with audiences during a time of social uncertainty, though it also sparked debate about authority and morality. Eastwood's performance reflected complexity rather than blind aggression, grounding the character in human contradiction. Rather than glorifying violence, his portrayal suggested a man worn down by the system he served. This era cemented Eastwood as a cultural figure whose roles reflected social tensions rather than escapism. While some critics misunderstood his intentions, Eastwood consistently emphasized personal responsibility and consequence. These films expanded his range and proved that he could lead blockbuster projects while still maintaining control over tone and character, a balance few actors achieved so effectively. The director emerges with a singular vision. Never content to remain only an actor, Eastwood moved behind the camera with Play Misty for Me in 1971, revealing a sharp instinct for suspense and emotional nuance. As a director, he favored efficiency, natural lighting, and minimal interference, allowing performances to breathe. Over time, his films explored themes of regret, redemption, and moral consequence, reflecting a deeper artistic philosophy. Projects like Unforgiven dismantled the myths he once embodied, questioning violence and heroism with rare honesty. Later films such as $1 Million Baby demonstrated his ability to handle emotional storytelling with sensitivity and restraint. Eastwood's directing style earned respect for its discipline and trust in actors, proving that great filmmaking doesn't require excess. Instead, it requires clarity of purpose. By the 1990s, he was no longer simply a star. He was a filmmaker whose voice carried weight, depth, and authority. Mantigos, a life lived largely out of the spotlight. Despite his fame, Eastwood has always guarded his personal life with discretion. His relationships and family life unfolded mostly away from public spectacle, shaped by both devotion and complexity. Over the years, he became a father to several children, many of whom later pursued careers in music, film, and creative fields. While his personal choices were not without difficulty, Eastwood consistently supported his children and maintained respectful relationships with their mothers. Rather than defining himself publicly through personal controversy, he focused on work and responsibility. His approach reflected his broader philosophy. Private matters belonged outside the spotlight. This boundary helped him maintain longevity in an industry often consumed by exposure. Eastwood's legacy was built not on personal drama, but on discipline, professionalism, and a refusal to let private life overshadow creative contribution. That separation became part of what sustained his career for decades. The film he never revisited. Among Clint Eastwood's extensive body of work, one project remains notably absent from his reflections. Two Mules for Sister Sarah, released in 1970. Though commercially successful and later appreciated by audiences, Eastwood has consistently distanced himself from the film. The reasons stem not from failure, but from discomfort. At the time, Eastwood was transitioning creatively, seeking roles aligned with his evolving taste for realism and depth. The film's lighter tone and unconventional narrative conflicted with his instincts. Additionally, differing working styles between him and his co-star created tension that made the production emotionally draining. Eastwood, known for restraint and simplicity, struggled with an environment that felt misaligned with his process. While the film holds a place in Western history, it represents a period of compromise rather than creative fulfillment for him, making it a chapter he quietly chooses not to revisit. Creative conflict and lingering discomfort. The unease surrounding Two Mules for Sister Sarah went beyond personality clashes. Eastwood later expressed dissatisfaction with the film's tonal balance, feeling it leaned too heavily into humor at the expense of authenticity. The story's central twist, though imaginative, felt implausible to him and weakened the emotional foundation he valued in storytelling. For an actor increasingly invested in realism, the experience reinforced the importance of creative control. This project highlighted what happened when vision and execution diverged. Though directed by Don Siegel, a filmmaker Eastwood deeply respected, the collaboration did not align with his long-term artistic direction. Rather than publicly criticizing the film, Eastwood chose silence, a response consistent with his character. The lingering discomfort wasn't anger, but disconnection. Watching the film today would remind him of compromises he later resolved never to repeat, making avoidance a quiet act of artistic self-respect. A career defined by control and integrity. Following that experience, Eastwood gradually asserted greater influence over his projects, ensuring alignment between story, tone, and personal values. Films like High Plains Drifter and The Outlaw Josie Wales marked a shift toward darker, more reflective storytelling. These works allowed him to explore morality without simplification and violence without glorification. By taking control, Eastwood ensured that his films reflected intention rather than obligation. This evolution explains why Two Mules for Sister Sarah feels like an outlier. It belongs to a time before he fully shaped his own cinematic identity. His refusal to revisit it is less about regret and more about growth. Artists often measure success not by popularity, but by authenticity. For Eastwood, integrity meant honoring the work that reflected who he became, not who he was still learning to be. Katiku, legacy beyond a single film. Clint Eastwood's legacy remains unmatched, built on decades of storytelling that balances strength with vulnerability. One avoided film does not diminish a career defined by courage, discipline, and reinvention. Instead, it humanizes him, reminding audiences that even legends experience missteps and discomfort. What matters is how those moments shape future choices. Eastwood chose refinement over repetition, control over compromise. His work continues to inspire filmmakers and performers who value authenticity over approval. By quietly distancing himself from Two Mules for Sister Sarah, Eastwood demonstrated an artist's right to define his own narrative. His career stands as proof that growth often comes from recognizing what no longer serves you. In the end, Clint Eastwood's silence about one film speaks louder than criticism ever could. It reflects a lifetime commitment to artistic truth and personal integrity.